this week's Road to the Summit as we count down the weeks. Few short weeks to the Broker Carrier Summit coming up in Orlando, October 28th through the 30th. They're the Hyatt Regency in Orlando. It's going to be an exciting time. The Broker Carrier Summit is a special place to be. It's where brokers and carriers come together, kind of understand each other, network with one another, and forge and develop those relationships. Brands get elevated and deals get done on the floor. It's really the only conference I ever go to, I've ever been to, that you see business deals being done right then and there. You know, carriers are finding loads with brokers, and brokers are covering, awarding freight, all before they get on their flights or get into their trucks and head home. So it's a very special time. If you haven't registered yet, you can go to brokercarriersummit.com/events. We have a ton of great content in there for you. It starts on the 28th, which is all learning labs. So great educational tracks that we'll be going through: operations, sales and marketing, fraud prevention, technology, and really about forging those partnerships. And welcome in our first guest here on the Road to the Summit. It's none other than Nick Dangles, co-founder of Sync Logistics Training. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on, Kevin.
Good. Let's talk about BCS. Let's talk about you've been a couple times. You're coming back down to Orlando here within the next couple months, end of October. And what are you looking forward to?
I had a blast at the Broker Carrier Summit. You know, I think the networking is some of the best you're going to find. I love talking to the different brokers that show up, love talking to the carriers. I think you got a great mix between brokers, carriers, and vendors. So the networking is my favorite part.
It is. It's next level. You won't find this networking that you'll find anywhere else because it's just not a buzzword networking. You actually see deals going on, you know, brokers covering loads, carriers finding new lanes, you know, maximizing those wheel turns that you have to have in these dark freight market times that we're living through right now.
Yeah, I think BCS does a great job of just facilitating those conversations. You know, it's not overwhelming. It's not a huge amount of people. It's you have a great amount of people there. You do a great job breaking it into smaller groups, getting people talking during the happy hours. Like if I had one thing to tell the people, it would be that the networking is really one of the highlights of BCS for me.
What events and stuff? You're in Indianapolis with us in April. What was your favorite part about Indianapolis?
Favorite part about Indianapolis?
Besides the great venue that we had, you know, the old train station, you know, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, the train station was cool. I was sending my kids' pictures of the train and the little statues that they had all around there. Outside of that, like I've already mentioned networking. I mean, I was able to moderate a panel, so like a little plug for myself there, enjoyed my panel. But no, like I think you guys arrange a great group of speakers. I really enjoyed, I think Kara Smith-Brown's panel really jumped out to me. I think her intent data is super interesting, but I think all the panels were great. I enjoyed sitting on all of them.
It's great education. You know, Kara Smith-Brown did a wonderful job with intent data, which is a fantastic topic when I like to talk about quite often.
That wasn't an intentional plug for you, actually.
I know, right? You know,
I didn't mean to do that.
If you want to find shipper intent data, you know where to look. You can just look me up. Yeah. So the educational piece at FMCSA, you know, the inspections, field trip. Did you get a chance to do that, or are you too busy running around talking networking?
I did not get a chance to do that. I did spend most of my time networking. As a vendor now, I obviously like talking to the brokers, but as a guy who brokered freight for 10 years, I mean, talking to the carriers is also incredibly interesting. You know, like I've never worked on the carrier side before, but as a broker, I clearly work with carriers every single day. And I think the amount of access that you get to being able to talk face to face with these carriers is great.
It really is. You know, I find the same with me, right? I was always a broker never a carrier, especially a smaller fleet. I worked for a larger fleet with a brokerage arm, but you don't get the sense of the real business until you're breaking bread, having a drink, having a cup of coffee, with not only one carrier, but three or four. You're just shooting the shit, as they say, right? And you just learn a lot. It's very educational in that way.
Yeah. And I mean, like I've been in the industry for probably about 15 years now. Most of that was in brokerage. I brokered freight for like 10 years. But I'll be the first person to tell you that like my knowledge of what happens on the carrier side is next to nothing, right? I mean, it's so useful being able to have these conversations with carriers to learn like what's important to them, what's going on in their world. Like I know, yeah, I know bits and pieces, but I certainly could not run a carrier.
Yeah, same here. So you get those finer details. You see what their challenges are. You see what, in their eyes, what makes a good broker versus a bad broker, right? And it's not necessarily what you think. It's a lot of details that you really haven't thought about. And there's kind of connections and conversations that you have, and then you take that into the educational sessions. Those learning labs for the first day. And you really get to really take a peek behind that curtain. Whether you're a broker looking at carriers or carriers looking at brokers, because they don't really understand. You can have that same conversation, right? Talking, if we are carriers talking about brokers, what do they do besides sit at their desk all day? And there's a lot of different intricate things that they go into it.
No, I think that's actually a really important piece of it that people don't talk about enough. I mean, we're always, as brokers, concerned about vetting carriers, but on the flip side, I mean, carriers also need to vet their brokers. Are you working with like a best-in-class broker that's actually going to pay you your accessorial fees, that's going to pay you on time, that's going to be a good partner for you? And I think from the carrier perspective, it's a great opportunity to go out there and actually meet some of these brokers that you're working with every day. People talk about how this is a service or a relationship industry, right? But a lot of the time, that's kind of just talk. So getting into these scenarios where you can actually meet people face to face and understand like what's going on the other side, build the relationships in person, it's super important.
Yeah, it's oftentimes it is just talk in a lot of ways, right? Because one of the things that I always, whenever I do workshops at the Broker Carrier Summit, a lot of times it's helping carriers develop those relationships with their core broker, developing core brokerages, right? Because a lot of times carriers, from one truck to 100 trucks and even more, they're playing the load boards. They haul for a number of different brokers, right? But they don't have a relationship with any of them. And it's how to develop relationships with that core set of brokerages that are going to put you to work 90% of the time that you use brokerages, right? Is having those lanes, developing that relationship with not only the brokerage itself, but that broker or that set of brokers that are going to be a true business partner with you, instead of a transactional nightmare that the freight world seems to have quite a bit of.
Yeah, and to me, it's about taking steps to really maximize those relationships, right? I mean, I feel like we talk about this a lot on the shipper side, right? Like, what can I do to maximize the value of these shipper accounts that I've got, right? Like, how can my account management team get more business out of them? But the same is true on the carrier side. Like, how can I funnel more of the right freight to these carriers, and how can I fill up their trucks and make things better for that carrier? And that's something that brokers need to be thinking about, right? Like, how can I match the right freight to the right carriers and further maximize these relationships? And I think having these in-person meetups is really beneficial to that. You can learn about your carrier's business much more effectively.
It is, and oftentimes the transactions are done over a phone call, but relationships are set up over a phone call. But whenever you're face to face and having a good time, learning, listening to some great industry knowledge, and having some great events after hours, the relationship is just deeper. It's deeper, and you walk away with, multi-year partnerships that will keep you running at a better race than you're running right now.
Yeah, and you uncover things about your carriers that you might not have uncovered just from like a passing phone conversation, right?
Exactly.
You might never know that Carrier A happens to have 5 flatbeds, right? And they have a bunch of vans, but lo and behold, they have flatbeds just sitting in their yard that you can't move. And it's about having those more in-depth conversations about like where do they see their business going? Like what are their needs? What kind of special services do they offer, and how can you match your freight with what they need? So it's an incredibly important conversation to have with them.
It is. It is. What else are you going to be looking forward to in Orlando?
In Orlando?
Yeah. Or at the conference in Orlando, whatever. Huh?
I'm not a hot weather person. I don't know.
Last week of October,
Florida. What?
So last week of October, it's not going to be that hot.
Florida's always too hot for me. But conference-wise, I don't know. Like I've been going to the conferences long enough that I've made a lot of friends with like different brokers, different other tech vendors. So I think even being able to strengthen those relationships is important,
Yes.
Meeting the tech vendors that we have relationships with, meeting some of the brokers that are customers of ours from Sync, that kind of stuff is hugely beneficial, obviously. Like somewhat self-serving of a comment there, but
It is though, I mean, it's the first step of networking, right? Building those relationships in person. And that's something that, that we hear about, and something we work on. And, it's just a very optimistic group, because you have the best players coming in, wanting to learn more, and people are doing deals on the floor. People, happy hour, they're doing deals, they're covering freight. Yeah, that has to put a smile on your face.
It always does. A highlight for me from it was an indie, right, where we went to see the Dallara.
Yeah, the Indy cars
manufacturing facility.
Yeah,
that was super interesting. I don't know if the BCS guys have another one of those planned for Orlando, but if there is, count me in. I really enjoyed touring a manufacturing facility. They're incredibly interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any Indy cars in Orlando, but there's some interesting tourist attractions, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
You piqued my interest. Count me in.
Stay tuned to learn more, I suppose, on that. But, yeah.
Can you give any teasers about what's on the schedule? I don't even know what's on the schedule yet.
I mean, yeah. So it is October 28th through 30th. 28th is the Learning Labs, right? Key educational programs that you can go to. Wednesday and Thursday is the main conference. And, we're going to be talking about sales and operations, right? A lot about sales and operation, marketing, technology. Picking technology is super important. So it's good to understand that. And of course, we're going to be talking about fraud.
Of course, you have to.
You can't do anything without talking about fraud, which is very important nowadays. And it's really affecting the industry. So definitely be talking about that, and really just how to carve out how to be better in relationship building. You might call that sales and marketing. You might talk about education, but it's really about building those relationships, why that's important, and the tools to actually do it. So have more details as weeks roll on, but that's a little sneak peek right now.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in the next couple months in Orlando, 28th through the 30th at the Hyatt Convention Center there, and having another great Broker Carrier Summit. And that was Nick Dangles from Sync Training, that have great logistics training there. He's a regular at the Broker Carrier Summit, and we are really geared up to go out there in Orlando, October 28th through the 30th, and do it all over again. Do some more deals, elevate some more brands, educate brokers and carriers, and get everybody in one room talking and learning more about each other. Each week we'll be doing the road to the summit, previewing our great speakers and guests, and we have some exciting ones coming up in the weeks ahead. We're going to start really packing the show as we get closer. Big shout out to Thai Software for sponsoring the road to the summit. We really appreciate that. But we'll be taking a look at all the technology out there. We don't have kiosks or booths at the summit because it kind of sets off the development of a relationship a little bit oddly sometimes. So everyone's mixing and matching, but it gives you the opportunity to see who will be out there, see what their services are, see if that's something that you're looking for, and be able to put a name to a face. And that's always important, especially at conferences when you have 500, 600, 700 people that you need to keep track of. Recognizing someone that you've seen on a stream is super important. But that'll wrap it for this week on the road to the summit. Going to the Broker Carrier Summit in Orlando, again, October 28th through the 30th. Be there. You can go register at brokercarriersummit.com/events. Until next week, go out, make some margin, and do some great work.